US-backed anti-government protests, along with US government-funded fronts like Pracha Thai, Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, and iLaw, have all complained about Section 112 of Thai law, which criminalizes defamation and insults against Thailand's head of state, the King of Thailand. There are also similar sections of law that protect the Thai head of state from threats. And while the opposition has tried to frame Section 112 as an issue of free speech, it's actually nothing of the sort. Even in the United States, where the Bill of Rights serves largely as the basis for the modern Western concept of free speech, when the American founding fathers signed their names to that document, it was meant to protect civilized discourse, not insults, and definitely not threats. As a matter of fact, if you insulted an American founding father in the same way Thai protesters are insulting the Thai monarchy today, they would have taken you outside for a duel, sometimes even to the death. Famous figures from America's early history like Alexander Hamilton, Andrew Jackson, and even Abraham Lincoln all took part in duels over matters of insults and injury to honor and image. And even today, in nations all around the globe, there are laws that define lines about what can and cannot be said. In Europe, for example, if you question the events surrounding World War II and the Holocaust specifically, you can face heavy fines or even years in jail. In the United States, there are also laws against defamation. They protect people big and small, and in nations all around the globe, there are laws on the books protecting their leaders and their head of states both from insults and also from threats to their safety. And here in Thailand, of course, threatening and insulting people is not protected as free speech, and certainly threatening and insulting the King of Thailand, who is also the head of state, is also prohibited under law, just like everywhere else around the globe. So actually, there's nothing really special or unique about Section 112 at all. It's similar to laws found all around the world. And if we're defining free speech as civilized discourse, then there's absolutely nothing civilized about what the Thai protesters are saying and doing right now. For one, they're making baseless accusations about the king and the people around him regarding very, very serious crimes they have no evidence at all that they did. They're also mocking and insulting the king regarding rumors surrounding his personal life, which are not only completely irrelevant to their alleged cause of reforming Thailand's institutions, it's very clear that it's a campaign of slander specifically designed to injure the king's image. And in many cases, these insults and mockery come with them specific threats, both direct and indirect, and they're usually expressed in the form of vandalism and the destruction of public property, which is a separate act that is also a crime pretty much everywhere around the world, not just Thailand. And it's only through the Western media and these fake rights groups like Pracha Thai, Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, iLaw, and also Human Rights Watch and Amnesty Thailand that these criminal acts are presented to the public as an issue of free speech and human rights, but it's just a smokescreen used to divide and destroy Thai society. And of course, this is all being done to help get US-backed opposition groups into power. Now, if you're a Westerner who thinks free speech means saying anything that you want, first of all, look at history. It just simply isn't so. It started out protecting civilized discourse. And ever since the West has abandoned this definition of what free speech is, just look at the West. Look how civilized society in the West is crumbling. And guess what else? One of the most important parts of freedom is the process of self-determination. That means Thailand itself needs to determine what free speech means and what can and cannot be said in public. it's not the West's business. It's not something the West gets to set the standard on internationally, especially when you look at their horrendous human rights record around the globe and even within their own borders. And it's definitely not the business of US funded groups operating here in Thailand. Now, I think that it's time for Thailand to kind of tune out the West's uninvited opinion on this matter. It's Thailand's business how they decide to protect their head of state and what lines they draw about what can and cannot be said in Thailand, just like Europe gets to decide for themselves and the US also gets to decide for themselves. These organizations in Thailand that are funded by the US government that are trying to inject themselves into this discussion, they need to be evicted out of the country and legitimate groups put in their place that can actually really protect human rights and free speech rather than simply hiding a political agenda behind both. Now, if you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. If you subscribe to the channel, it really helps it grow. And as always, thank you very much for watching.